Hi, what's up, people? I hope you guys can see me now. Good morning, good afternoon. How's your investment life going? It's been this is very interesting period for the global world. But our focus today is on Nigeria. Focus today is mainly on Nigeria. You know, the Central Bank of Nigeria, I think Olayemi Cardoso has been doing a great job. So I have to give them when they're doing well with them their flowers. Recently, you must have heard the news that the Central Bank of Nigeria has concluded the recapitalization of banks to raise 4.65 trillion to boost financial stability in the country. The central bank says it's that successfully, completed banking sector recapitalization program, strengthening the resilience of Nigeria's financial services. So Nigerian financial services has been strengthening. So for you as a young investor, let me help break this down for you, not just as news, but as opportunity to think like a sharp investor. This is an opportunity for you to think like a sharp investor. It's an opportunity for you to think and act like a sharp investor. It's an opportunity for all of us. Every person, every news you hear, you ask yourself, what are the opportunities here? Okay. Any news you hear as a sharp investor, you think of it and say, what are the opportunities for me? Any news you hear? The central bank has officially concluded its banking sector recapitalization program, and it's a big deal. That's a big deal. You think about it when you hear news like that. You say this is a big deal because over the past 24 months, Nigerian banks, guess they've raised a massive 4.6, not billion, not million, not millions, not billions, but trillion in fresh capital. Fresh capital. Now, you'll be asking yourself, where did this money come from? And I hear what you should catch, you should understand. Let me break it down for you as much as I can. Okay. So, what people don't know is that 72% of that capital the bank raised, guess where it came from? It came from the local investors, you and I. It shows strong domestic. That's tell you how Nigerians have confidence, in the banking system. A whooping 72% of the capital came from local investors. That's true. The local investors also have great confidence in the Nigerian banking sector. Then the remaining 27% came from international investors. 27% of the capital the bank raised came from international investors. That shows a great global money is betting on Nigeria. Global money is also betting on Nigeria. That combination is powerful, guys. It's powerful. It means both home and foreign capital believe Nigerian banks are worth investing in. That's what it means. It means Nigerian banks are worth investing in. So if both local and foreign investors think of banks like if both local and foreign investors believe in the banking system to the extent that they're investing their money, it means there's something happening and you need to start looking at it. Yeah, because think of banks like shock absorbers in a car, the shock absorbers in the car. Uh, Before recapitalization, any big economic shock, let's say inflation, foreign exchange crisis, recession, could damage the banks. Any little You know, any little shock could damage the bank. But what happened after the recapitalization, guys? They now have thicker financial buffers. They have what? Thicker financial buffers. You know, they can absorb shocks without collapsing. They can learn more confidently. It means that young entrepreneurs like you and I can approach the banks and they can learn with more confidence. I'm looking at a time where you walk into the Nigerian bank with your ideas, and the bank are able to look at your ideas and finance your ideas without them asking to go and bring your mother's death certificate, your grandfather's, all those things, all those funny things Nigerian banks ask. You know, now they can learn with more confidence. And importantly, what you need to know is that it's not one bank, it's not two banks that pass this 33, 10, and 10 in three places, and three banks have already met the new capitalization requirements, while others are still completing the process, you know, with no disruption to operations, no disruption whatsoever to operation. Why this matter to you as a young investor or as an investor? This way you lean forward, guys. This way you lean forward. Strong banks equals to safer investments. You know, banks with higher capital are less likely to fail. That reduces risks for shareholders. You know, it reduces what? Risks for shareholders. You know, strong banks, I said again, equals to safer investment. Banks with higher capital are less likely to fail. And that's the truth. And I remember when the governor of Anambra State, when he was the central bank, I'm talking about Professor Charles Soludo, he did something similar. I think in 2007 or 2000, they about 2005, 2005, 2007, 2008, they did what they called the recapitalization again, you know, that reduces the risks for shareholders. So, you know, this is not the first time that banks are recapitalizing in Nigeria. And what number two, why this matters to you as an investor is that more lending, the more banks lend, they have the potential to make more profit, you know, and with strong balance sheets, banks can give out more loans. With strong balance sheets, banks can give out more loans. You know, they can finance businesses. That's the truth. And when they finance more businesses, they earn more interest income, you know, more interest income. You know, number three, what this means to you, you know, improve transparency, you know, improve transparency equals to what it's going to give them is better valuations. You know, when they're transparent, you know, the CBN is enforcing you know, testing, stress testing on the banks. That means, you know, the CBN will not let the banks behave anyhow. There's strong scrutiny, you know, stress testing, you know, risk-based supervision. You know, the CPN is going to be for supervising and cleaner balance sheet. It shows that they having cleaner balance sheet. This makes it easier for investors to trust financial statement. So when you pick any financial statement of a bank, because the stress testing from the CPN, yeah, and the risk-based supervision, and because they have cleaner balance sheets. You know, this makes it easier for investors to trust financial statement. You know, all those cover-ups that some accountants use to cover some things in the financial statements, because there's close monitoring by the CBN. The banks cannot give you false information. Yeah, so it makes you easy. It makes it easier for you as an investor to trust any financial statement from the bank. So improve transparency. Yeah, because to better valuations when they are transparent in their finances. You know, you can evaluate the bank. You can trust the bank. You can, you know, do your due diligence. You know, don't just, like I tell you guys always, don't just put your money, you know, follow the headlines. Don't follow the headlines. Do your due diligence before you put your money into any, you know, before you invest your hard-earned money into any investment. Do your due diligence. Are you okay? So, and for you to do your due diligence. One of the books should look at the financial statements of any company you want to invest your money in. Number four, what this means is that foreign money is entering. That's the truth. Foreign money is entering into Nigeria. Foreign money is entering. When international investors bring capital, they are not guessing. That's the truth, because those guys, they take their time to do analysis, to analyze any economy, any where they are putting their money to. International investors are not careless people. They are not guessing. They are positioning early. They always position. So smart investors pay attention to where smart money goes. Smart investors pay attention to where smart money go. Now, the bigger picture for you is this. This capitalization does three strategic things I want you to take note. It does what? Three strategic things. Stabilizes the financial system. It stabilizes the financial system. That means the Nigerian financial system is stable. So the bigger picture for all of us is that the financial system is stable in Nigeria. Yeah, and what it does is that it prepares banks for future economic shocks. So the banks in Nigeria are now prepared for future economic shocks, and it positions Nigeria for long-term growth. So I think if in Nigeria now, if you're a smart investor, begin to look at look at the Nigerian capital market, and if I were you, I may say maybe the banking sector also as well. In plain time, strong banks, more credit. Strong banks equals to more credit, and more credit means more business activity. That's the truth. So the Nigerian economy, I'm guessing, is about to experience an economic boom like never before. So more business activity. The more business activity in the country is going to result into economic growth. Yeah, and when there's economic growth, there's higher corporate earnings. Yeah, and the stock market in Nigeria is expected to perform better over time. That's the truth. The stock market in Nigeria is expected to perform better over time. So the investor mindset I want you to have is this: don't just read this as news, read it as what? Signal. Don't just read this, don't just hear this as news. This is a kind of environment where long-term investors quietly accumulate quality bank stocks. Patient capital gets, you know, um, rewarded over time. So you as an investor, excuse me, position yourself for long term. And patient capital gets rewarded over time. Capital that is patient get rewarded over time. So look at always trying to look at long term. Fearful investor stays on the sideline and miss the move. Yeah, fearful investors will stay on the sideline and miss the move. The question is not, is this good news? The question right now is not, is this good news? The real question is, you should be asking yourself, which banks are now best positioned to benefit from this strong foundation? Yeah, which banks? That's what you should be asking yourself. Which banks are now best positioned to benefit from this stronger foundation? Because the banks have stronger foundation. So it's for you to ask yourself the question. That's where the next layer of analysis should go. If you're analyzing any sector by sector, I believe you should start analyzing the banking sector, analyze them, scrutinize them, and ask yourself which banks are now best positioned to benefit from the situation I'm describing. So please position yourself well, and I wish you success. Yeah, I wish you success in your investment journey. I am your mentor in wisdom and wealth. I remain Kim Thomas Allison, and I look forward to seeing you at the top. I look forward to seeing you as a sharp investor that you are supposed to be. Best of luck. Thank you so much. God bless. Bye.